Welcome to another episode of Plugged In, a podcast presented by OREMC about our co-op, our community, and our shared connections. I'm Michelle Hutchins, Communications and Marketing Coordinator at OREMC, and today we are talking about the trip of a lifetime. Every year, thousands of students from across the country, sponsored by other electric cooperatives, descend on Washington, D.C. for a week-long, all-expenses-paid trip for the National Washington Youth Tour Leadership Experience. Visiting with congressional delegates, having tours of monuments, museums, and memorials are all highlights of the trip. But really, truly, what our students always talk about when they come back are the memories that they make with students that they meet from all across the country, just like them. So today, we're going to dive a little deeper into what the National Rural Electric Youth Tour is. And joining me is our ORMC Youth Tour Coordinator, Dewey Johns, and past Youth Tour delegates, Jesse and Corbin. So welcome to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Dewey, why don't we start with talking a little bit more about what the Youth Tour is, who it's open to, and how to apply?
Well, Okefenokee Youth Tour is open to any high school junior in our service territory, which is the 8 counties that we serve, and the 2 of those are in Florida. And we do, even though we are located in Georgia, we do include our delegates or the students from the state of Florida as well. So there's a couple ways to apply. One of those being online. You can download an application and send it to me online. You can print it off, fill it out, and bring it by any of our 3 offices, Nahana, Kingsland, and Hilliard, and just email me directly. But that's the easiest way to apply. And we've been doing this. This is going to be Okefenokee's 31st year.
And the Youth Tour itself is well over 50 years
Yes,
old.
And this is Okefenokee's 31st year, if I can remember correctly, that we've been sending students on the Washington Youth Tour. And we have varied in size over the years. The last 10 to 12 years, we've been sending 4 delegates each year. And they'll join up with the rest of the delegates from the state of Georgia. In the state of Georgia, there's 39 participating co-ops, and with that, there will be in the neighborhood of 113 to 115 delegates from the state of Georgia that will meet up in Atlanta for a banquet and then leave the following morning to start their tour in D.C. Once they're in D.C., they will meet up with around 1,500 kids or 1,500 delegates from around the nation,
all across the country,
and for a week-long adventure.
And it is dawn to late at night.
Yes. It normally starts around, the day starts around 7 a.m. and winds up closed doors into bed by 11 most nights. But it's steady going from the 7 a.m. to about 10 when you get back to the hotel.
Well, and it was a long time ago that I actually had chaperoned this trip before, and it's definitely Washington, D.C. from A to Z.
A to Z.
I mean, you do see everything. You take in all that there is that you hear about, that you see about, because, yes, some students have been there before, but most of our Youth Tour delegates have not typically traveled up there.
And one of the fun things I always have is the flights, because we have a lot of delegates that's never even flown before. Yep. So that's always a lot of fun to see this first time experience on an airplane. So, and it's a great thing. And I'd recommend this to anybody that has that is a junior, or if you have a student that is a junior, I would recommend this trip because this is a once in a lifetime experience. And
so parents and grandparents, you need to notify them.
So yes,
absolutely.
And contact us. If you have any questions, just reach out. All my information can be found on our website, and Michelle does a good job on our social media pages of putting all this information out. So just reach out if you have any questions.
So this year we are returning to DC because of COVID, the national tour has been canceled the past 2 years.
Right.
So as we sit here today in February, all systems are go for a return in 2022 to the national tour, and we're very excited about that. But I think the overall experience we attempted to capture last year. So even though there wasn't a national youth tour, we did a ORMC youth tour that was a Georgia Cultural Heritage and History tour. And we took 5 students around, and Jesse and Corbin were among those. So I guess one of the things is you have to apply to be accepted and chosen. So tell us a little bit about what appealed to you about the idea of this trip. Well, what appealed to you? And based on your own experience, what would you tell students who are thinking about applying this year?
So, so if you've never really traveled outside of your state, or you don't really know as much about Georgia as you think you do, it was actually very beneficial to learn more about the state of Georgia, meaning like we got to go to the center of Atlanta, which is where they do lots of filming. They have the Coca-Cola Center. We have our own sports team, you know, the Atlanta Braves. We got to go see one of those games. It was very exciting.
The World Series.
The World
champions.
Series, yep.
The champions.
And who knew at that point?
Who knew? We didn't, but we sure did not. But we also got to see Stone Mountain and a very historical monument that is there that is beautiful. We got to climb up there. That took a while, and that took some integrity.
Yes,
but
you experienced Stone Mountain.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, no, we didn't just see it. We experienced it.
Yeah, so we climbed up and you took the tram down.
Yes, ma'am.
So what about you, Corbin?
Like Jesse said, I enjoyed the historical part of it. I always had a knack for history. I knew a lot about Georgia history, but it was great to be able to go and experience where those historical events may have happened. But I also enjoyed just being able to make some new friends that were my age who shared some common interest as me.
Yeah, I mean, now you two did know each other somewhat, but there were 5 of you, and from our perspective, you all became very fast friends. You want to talk about that a little bit?
So there was, can I say their first names? Sorry. So there was Emily from Brunswick, Rachel, who was also from Brunswick, Glenn County, and there was Amelia from Florida, Hilliard. And all 5 of them, whenever we would talk, we talk about like what classes we were taking and the size of their graduating classes and what exactly they had going on in their lives. And it was very nice to relate on some levels of like some common struggles that we all have, and basically how. Oh gosh!
But see the differences in the schools.
Yes, yeah.
From because each of y'all went to different schools, and one was actually from Florida, which is a total different school system, not even a Georgia school system. So I thought that was pretty neat, and to build on those relationships and friendships that Michelle and I could see personally taking place, because we got to spend several days in a van together. So,
that was fun.
That was really fun. And to listen and say cemetery ever so often.
Oh my gosh!
And Corbin was our solo guy of the group, but you didn't seem to have any struggles.
No, I'm used to hanging out with a bunch of girls.
I was like, he's gonna say that.
We did get to go to the state capitol. Unfortunately, it was not open, so we could actually go in and tour. But you know. We tried to make it, even though we didn't go to D.C., we tried to make it
as similar.
Because when you're in D.C. on this trip, you will actually attend the U.S. Capitol. Yes. You'll get to visit the U.S. Capitol. And we wanted to do that with you guys last year, and it just didn't happen, unfortunately, due to COVID. A lot of things have changed, but we did get to go downtown. We did get to experience some things that you guys had never experienced. One of those, like we laughed about just a moment ago, going to an Atlanta Braves game.
Yeah.
We got to go downtown and see, actually while we were downtown Atlanta, we got to see where Marvel was actually recording a movie while we were downtown. So there was a lot of things taking place. Stone Mountain, we got to experience the laser shows at night. And travel, we got to go to Little Grand Canyon. So several things we took in last year that I thought was a great trip that we done in-house.
Yes, and I think the other part too is Georgia is the birthplace of electric cooperative. So we really kicked off the trip last year with something that you wouldn't get in DC, but is talked about a great deal, because obviously the point of the trip is to learn and understand the importance of rural electrification and the role that it played not only back then, and as we toured Gordon College and an REA exhibit there, which is how we started, you all kind of made the correlation between not having broadband today with not having electricity way back in the day. And it helped you understand the significant difference being able to flip a switch and turning the lights on. And same now with, I mean, who can imagine not being able to get to the internet in their hand or on their computer to do their homework, which, as we saw with COVID, related to that.
Yes.
But we also went to the little White House, which is where FDR, who signed the REA into legislation, you know, kind of had the light bulb moment, if you will, to bring that about. So talk a little bit about that, because you had a small component of meeting up with other students, because we met with some youth tour delegates from Middle Georgia EMC.
I obviously enjoyed that part of the tour because that had a lot of the history part of Georgia and the Great Depression and the beginning of the New Deal, and it was enjoyable to be able to go walk through this museum and read all the different exhibits
and tour his house where he lived. You know, him and Eleanor lived, so it's pretty cool experience. Jesse,
I remember walking up to part of the museum. There were pieces of rocks and stones and granites from all of the 50 states. And I thought that was really interesting, that a piece, it's not just that he made an impact on Georgia, but he made enough of an impact on the rest of the country that they sent a piece of themselves. And it's right here at the little White House.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, talk about just when you look back at it, you know, I know, Jesse, you did a little bit of a video after the fact, and one of the things you talked about, yes, you enjoyed the tour and you learned a lot about other people, but you also said you learned a lot about yourself.
So I am like deathly afraid of heights, and at Callaway Gardens, where we stayed at, there was a little resort and a treetop trip. I attempted it, and I was placed in the middle between Amelia, Rachel, and then behind me was Emily, and it was Corbin. And I was like a buffer. One person in front of me was telling me it's okay, and then one person behind me was telling me it's okay. And I didn't get very far, but in the end, when I said I can't do this anymore, they were like, it's okay. You can just stop. And I was like, thank you.
Yeah, well, but you made it further than you thought you were going to.
I did.
You attempted it, though. Yeah. That's the big thing.
And you had support.
And
what about you?
I enjoyed the treetop trek also. I was able to make it to the end. So
yeah, you and Rachel both.
I guess I did learn a little bit about myself as well. I was able to learn more about the historical side, which, you know, I already knew I enjoyed that part, but I was able to more get concrete evidence. Okay, yeah, that's what I enjoy, and obviously I'm really good at it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you all are embarking on a new journey, you know, and this is a leadership experience. I mean, part of the reason you all were selected is because you are leaders in your school and academically and just, you know, civically, if you will. How do you think this has set you up for the next step in your journeys, which will be going to college? You know, how's this going to help you prepare for what you might face there?
Well, on all of my resumes that I've made for like college or a scholarship, I have included that I was a youth tour delegate for the OREMC. So I feel like that definitely made an impact for some of these colleges, because they would likely look up what's that up, and they'll be like, oh, wow, they selected him because of these different factors.
And most of the colleges recognize what the Washington Youth Tour is. Okay. Because like Michelle said earlier, you know, nationally it's been around 50 years. So it is well known, and it's a great leadership program throughout the nation, not just Georgia. So a lot of the colleges are know a lot about it. So it weighs heavily on an application, on a scholarship application or an application or of acceptance to a school if you're applying.
Mm-hmm.
So
How about you, Jesse? How do you think it's prepared you for the college experience?
I believe location wise, I mean, of course, I put it on my scholarship applications. I put it on college applications because it's that important and it's that helpful. But I feel that going somewhere for a whole week, technically in a way by myself, like without any other family members, in my home state where I intend to go near college, around a place that I've never been before, it helped me kind of embrace that like culture shock in a way. Like this is how it's going to be for a while, and I have to accept that.
it opens up, open your eyes up to what it's going to be.
You relied on your teammates, if you will.
Yes.
Your friends.
I sure
Yes.
did. Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Well, the National Youth Tour, I mean, is what you all experienced, just on a larger scale and from a national versus a Georgia perspective. And, you've been to DC, I've been to DC. It is, you do hit everything on that National Mall, all the Smithsonian museums and the Washington Monument and, the Lincoln Memorial and the FDR Memorial and, the Martin Luther King Memorial now and the Jefferson all around the tidal basin there. They also go out, I believe now, to the Air and Space Museum. There is one there on the mall, but there's a more expanded one out by Dulles Airport,
Right.
which I think is part of that.
Yes.
The visits with the congressional delegation is certainly part of that. But then there's some cultural things. There's usually dinner shows and
Right. And now, of course, moving into the COVID era of the youth tour, if you will, some of this stuff is going to be limited on what we can do.
yeah.
And there is some paperwork, and when you start filling it out and applying, there's some language in there that you need to read. And of course, everything's subject to change. And I think we've all have come to learn that in the last 2 years, that everything is not always what it was pre-COVID.
Before, yeah.
So just be aware and be prepared if we may have to make changes on the fly, if you will. And we did last year, actually.
Yes.
On our little in-state tour, we had to make a few changes on the fly. And that the delegates need to be aware of that and be prepared to do that, to shift on the fly if we need to and change the direction we're headed. And last year it was great. We didn't have any backlash because of what we had started out going to do, and then at the last minute we had to change for whatever reasons. But
And that is likely, like you said, to happen in DC. But the major things, particularly things like Arlington National Cemetery and the changing of the guard, that should all it's outside and
right. Like I said, everything. The only thing that I'm aware of that really we're not going to do would be the Holocaust Museum.
Yes.
And it's just because of they're not allowing that big of a crowd to come in at this point in time. So we do know that, but everything else that's on the agenda in the years past is back on the agenda again, minus the Holocaust Museum. But I know our statewide coordinator, he's working on some things to fill that slot, that time slot. So they'll have it all ironed out between now and June when the tour takes place.
And another one that I know I always look forward to sharing with the students was the Mount Vernon tour.
Yes.
George Washington's home. And then the silent drill with the Marine Corps.
The drum and bugle corps.
And that's, that's at sunset near the Iwo Jima Memorial. And so there's just a lot of those different things that should be able to continue because you are outside. And as we know, being outside is a little bit better than a lot of people in a smaller space at this point.
And we have a large delegate group from the state of Georgia. When you're talking about 113 to 115 delegates, and then you have to have chaperones. So you're looking at the neighborhood of 130 people from the state of Georgia on this trip once you get the chaperones and the coordinators and assistant coordinators. So you're looking at 130 plus that's attending this trip. So I do want to say one thing, and for you two especially, and the other ones that went in the previous years, you was talking about putting the Washington Youth Tour on your scholarship applications and on your applications to school. By being an alumni of the Youth Tour, there's a scholarship that's available your second year in college. and it's only available to Youth Tour alumni. And it's English. I can't remember the first name.
Glenn
English.
The former NRECA.
NRECA, yes. And he has a scholarship that is just available to Youth Tour alumni, and you have to be in your second year of school. But it's a $10,000 scholarship. And then there's 3. If you don't win the 10,000, there's an opportunity to win at least 1,000. One of our co-coordinators at Middle Georgia, Salanded, it was with us at the Little White House last year. She actually won that scholarship. The 1,000, she didn't win the 10,000, but she won the $1,000 scholarship twice. So you can, even after you win, you can reapply. Yes,
every little bit helps.
Yes, and it's only available to the Youth Tour alumni. So.
Well, and some of the other opportunities is from among all the Youth Tour delegates that go to DC, then they do select one to be a spokesperson at NRECA annual meeting.
Yeah, the youth leadership.
And that was Philandy as well, someone from Georgia that had gone previously, and she is a communicator at Middle Georgia EMC
now.
So you can see how here's someone who went on the youth tour, got the full benefit and experience of kind of the cooperative world, if you will, and now she's works at it and promotes it herself.
And she tells us, if you guys remember last year, she tells us that youth tour changed her direction and what she had planned on studying and pursuing after high school. So it's a great thing. It wound up being a great thing for her. And I've talked to several of our past delegates, and every one of them will say, yes, just like you guys, they really enjoyed and loved and learned a lot about this trip, from this trip rather. So.
And I think, like we said, all systems are go right now for going back to DC for 2022. But should something change, we're prepared to punt and do a Georgia-based trip again. But either way, I think it's, and you all can say it better probably, because again, it's from your perspective, not ours. We just kind of observe. But what we see is it really is an eye-opener in the sense of, learning to meet new people, seeing things from different perspectives. I mean, you're all very much alike, but you all have different backgrounds and interests. And, we joke about saying cemetery. Well, Rachel, who's on the trip, she's very much into archaeology, and she is fascinated by cemeteries, and she shared that with all of you. And we'd be driving along the back roads of Georgia, and somebody would see cemetery, and the whole bus would go up with cemetery, and I mean, it's a silly little thing, but it's going to stick with you. I bet you're never going to not think of Rachel when you think of that, So it's sort of those small little moments, and I think it's like anything else in life. Yes, you have big moments, and they're very impactful. But it's sometimes the small things that have the biggest meaning as you continue on in life. And I think that's what the Youth Tour is a good collection of different experiences that, whether you've traveled before or not, or whether you first time on an airplane or first time away from home at all, it just gives it's a growth opportunity, not just personally, but as you grow into your collegiate and professional careers. So with that, applications, as Dewey said, are online, oremc.com, Youth Tour, and you can download it or you can fill it online. And I know all of you told me that you did it online, and it was very easy last year. I guess final thoughts on anyone's part as to
March 3rd deadline.
March 3rd deadline, and you've got classmates, you got other people or parents or grandparents who might want to encourage their eligible students to do this. What's the one takeaway you want to leave with everybody as to why you should pursue being an ORMC Youth Tour delegate?
It gives you that experience and that moment in your life of, oh goodness, it gives you really good exposure to stuff that maybe you don't know, or maybe you do know, and you want to experience it with some other people that you don't know. It's
a little bit out of your comfort zone.
It really is, yeah.
I think for me, I think what I want people to understand is that submitting an application is a really easy thing to do. And all you have to do is hope for getting accepted, and then just having fun.
Yeah, I think I get some issues, like Corbin said. All you got to do is submit an application.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you either go and it'll get judged by. It actually gets judged by over at Troy State University. You know, so none of our employees have a hand in this. It's judged from an outside source. And like Corbin said, you're either going to get a yes letter or you're going to get sorry, you know, not this time. But why not apply? That's my thoughts. Why? It's because it's not hard, and it's just a few moments to apply. So why not apply? If you get accepted, what a great experience.
Yeah.
So
It's a small moment that'll end up meaning a lot if you end up getting accepted.
right.
Well, that's a great way to wrap it up, Jesse. So thank you so much. And we look forward to getting lots of applications.